All right, it's Full Metal Racket 91.1 WSPN Skidmore College Radio with your boy George Burns. And I'm hanging out with my man Al from Life of Agony.
What's up?
Playing tonight at the New England Metal and Hardcore Fest.
I love your hat, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm really psyched that Doyle's playing tonight with you guys. Opening up, right?
Doyle,
yeah, man.
Doyle.
Speaking of which, because I'll jump right into
Doyle on here, don't I?
Do you?
There he is.
Rockin' Doyle. There's Doyle.
There he is.
Yeah, speaking of, I'll jump right into it. So you did something with Doyle recently with the comics. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been a Misfits fan since I came out of the womb, pretty much.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was funny. We were watching old videos of the band of LOA first show.
Okay.
I'm wearing a Misfits shirt.
You're always in a Misfits shirt.
And I was wearing the same shirt 30 years later, watching it. I go, oh, some things don't change.
Right. Yeah. Every time I've seen you play live, you're in a Misfits shirt. I swear I have photos probably on this phone with this guy in a Misfits shirt.
Yeah. This might be my first show without a Misfits shirt.
Oh no, I didn't play with Doyle.
But I'm rocking the pin today.
Okay, that's cool. So anyway, so what did you do with Doyle? Explain.
So I started doing graphic novels, drawing and writing graphic novels back in 2010.
Yep.
I got a publishing deal with IDW Publishing, one of my favorite comic companies. They did 30 Days a Night, and Transformers, G.I. Joe, all that stuff. So I put out a book called Wire Hangers. After that was Crawl to Me, a couple of years later. And then I did a book called Killogy, which was like a dark comedy set in the zombie apocalypse. Okay. And I had this idea to base the characters on real actors and musicians that I love. So I got Frank Vincent from Goodfellas, who recently passed.
Oh wow.
Sweetheart of a guy. Right. Love Frank. And Bria Grant from Heroes. Okay. And Doyle, we got Doyle in there. Yeah. And who else do we have? Marky Ramone.
Oh yeah, Marky Ramone too.
Yeah. And so they were like fighting zombies and trying to survive in the apocalypse. It was a lot of fun. And then we ended up transitioning to an animated series and trying to get that developed. So there's actually about a 7-minute teaser of the animation. So it's Killogy animated.com, and there you can check that out. I wrote the music for it and stuff. Oh, cool. And it's all their voices.
Oh really? Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. We actually recorded Frank Vincent's voice in his kitchen. On my laptop. It was awesome. And he's like dropping F-bombs all over the place. He's like, sorry, to his wife.
You're keeping it. Well, that's cool. So you were doing that, was this before you guys started recording the new record? Was that what you were doing in the meantime? Or?
Well, I've kind of always been doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. It's hard to figure out when and where. This project was
The Place with No More Pain when you guys started doing that?
I might have moved on to the Beauty of Horror coloring book series.
Yeah, okay.
I'm on book 3 now, so I've been putting one of those out every year.
Keeping the creative process just flowing, just keeping it going.
It's going crazy.
Thing. Yeah.
Well, my favorite things are heavy music and horror.
Right.
So, and comics. Right. So I just kind of put that all together.
That's really
awesome. Keep busy doing all that kind of stuff.
Right. So we'll talk about the new record, Place with No More Pain. Could you explain maybe a little bit about the title of that album?
Yeah, I think when we were thinking about the material and what this band stands for and the message behind the music, one thing when we wrote River on Dread all those years ago as kids, we were frustrated young adults that needed to write music as a way of dealing with our own problems. And what we found by making a career out of this and being able to tour the world and play in front of all these people in different territories, that record in particular connected with people in a certain way because either they were our age, dealing with the same problems, and that has translated from generation to generation. Now we get dads and moms bringing their kids who are now 18 years old, and stuff like that. And
I mean, that gives me chills. I remember whenever Lost in 22 came out, I was 22 years old, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and that really hit home to me. I'm 43 now, so if you do the math, that's whenever that came out. Yes,
carry the one. But yeah, and that's what we always tried to do with every record, even though that we've changed the sound over time from record to record, and that's who we were at that particular moment in time. Those albums documented our evolution, I guess. Somehow you put them all those different songs in one set and it works.
Right.
But we really connected with our listeners in that way, with this emotional connection, through getting from releasing a lot of frustration through the lyrics and the music. And so when we're all together in the same room in a venue, in my mind, it's a place where there's no more pain. And you have that bond, and everyone understands each other. And that's the way I was looking at it. But some people said, "Oh, place where there's no more pain." Is that death? It could be if it means that to you.
Right.
You know, you can take it any way that you connect with it.
Yeah.
But that's how I was thinking of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is, people always say, well, at least he's not suffering anymore, so that was sort of, I didn't know if there was a dark hint in that.
Well, some people go, is there a place where there's no more pain? Well, that's another question. But for me, that's when I'm most happy, and, us doing what we do with our listeners, it really is something special, and we don't take it for granted, and it's something we really treasure and look forward to. So I can't wait for tonight.
Yeah, man, I really can't wait. I remember whenever River Runs Red came out, this is we're going back here, there was a thing back then with New York hardcore and hardcore in general. We were up from upstate New York. There was a line between metal and hardcore, and it was either one or the other, and it was like a fight,
Yeah,
like say between long hair and skinhead,
Yeah, and you know what?
And you guys landed right in between there.
Yeah.
So what would you say back then? Did you guys consider yourself hardcore, or did you guys consider yourself metal?
I think we had a foot in either basket, because when we first started, my hair was down to my ass.
Right.
And I loved Metallica, Slayer, Possessed, Misfits.
Right.
And then as I got exposed to the New York hardcore bands, Agnostic Front, Good Old Cro-Mags, and we started, me, Joey, Keith at the time, we would take the bus to go to Lemore's to go see bands like Leeway. XL was a big band that would come through, and then we would go to the CB shows in the city, and we started making friends there, and go see AF all the time, and so we were very much part of that early 90s scene in New York. And when we started playing, the music sounded more like hardcore than metal, although Joey had a pretty metal
guitar sound, right?
Yeah, at that time.
Right.
So we kind of had both, but the lyrics always spoke, I thought, more like a hardcore band.
Right, yeah.
Because they were very street and down to earth.
Right.
And we weren't singing about castles and
Dungeons and Dragons,
and all that. Right. And even though I love Maiden, and,
right.
and stuff
Nothing
like
against
that, but that's what we were about, and yeah. So, but I think the guitar sound and maybe some of the structures of the songs were maybe in the metal world.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a combo. And you know what? Bands like Suicidal Tendencies and who else was a great cross? DRI.
Yeah.
We grew up on all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think at that time it was already starting to cross
Mix
over
up,
and get all mixed. Nuclear Assault. We used to see it a little more all the time. So it was a good time for music.
Yeah. So with the new record, say from River Runs Red and Mina's vocal style, whenever she was Keith, was a lower tone. Did you guys have to change your tuning for the new album?
We did use a different tuning, but not for that reason.
No? Okay.
No. In fact, Sal brought that idea up to play the new songs in C sharp.
Okay.
He always loved to write in that tuning.
Okay.
It's very Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
I loved it instantly, and it was a nice change.
Okay.
So I thought that was a great suggestion by him, and he was very involved in the writing of the record.
Yeah.
And also on guitar and coming up with riffs and structures, and it sounds great like that.
Yeah.
So
he's a guitar riff master too, huh?
He is.
That's great.
And so, so it wasn't really to change anything for the vocals.
Okay.
But I think that in 1992, 1993, when we did River Run Dread, and we had Josh Silver producing the record, I think he was pushing Keith back then to sing a certain way.
Okay.
And also I think that leading up to that point, one of our favorite bands in the world was Sheer Terror.
Okay.
And Paul Bearer had this very distinct vocal style that influenced us.
Right.
And I think between that and Danzig and all the stuff that we were listening to at that time created that sound.
Okay.
And Josh pushing us to be a certain thing at that moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. All right, so that makes sense. So working with a new producer 20 years later, 25 years later, just, okay, so it's changed the sound as opposed to Mina's voice. Okay. So Sal left. I guess I don't really want to ask you about that. I would rather ask Sal himself than to have you vouch for why he left or whatever, unless you have some sort of...
It was just, this year marked a certain time for us to figure out what we wanted to do as people, and it just was best for everybody to just, we're going to do this, he's going to do that, and it's as simple as that, really.
I noticed the what seemed like the Bag of Bones song. It seemed like the Sal, like honing in that typo.
Pete influenced all of us,
Right.
and there would be no Life of Agony without Carnivore, without Pete.
Right.
Until this day, he's still someone I look up to, even though he's gone.
Right on.
So
It's not just a South thing necessarily.
I think all of the bands that came up in that era, Biohazard, Life
Right.
Agony, anything that Pete touched.
I actually found it hilarious. I saw Sheer Terror not too long ago, and he said, Paul Bearer said, Brooklyn vegan. I tell you what, the best thing out of Brooklyn was a band called Carnivore. Hilarious. But anyhow, But okay, so Peter Steele definitely has a huge impact on the music.
On all of us, on everyone involved.
Yeah.
And like I said, if Carnivore didn't exist, we'd all be doing different things.
Yeah. Right. So you got a new drummer now, Veronica.
Yep.
And you guys gonna record a new album with her?
Absolutely. Yeah, we already started working on it.
Okay. So when do you got a date for that?
We don't have a release date yet, but we'll be recording probably January.
Oh, you can start recording in January?
Yeah.
All right. So how many songs you guys got right now?
Well, there's probably about 5 or 6.
All right. Cool. So we're looking for a new Life Agony album. I'm really psyched about that.
Sometime in 2019.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for taking your time out to rap with me. It's been a awesome interview.
Thank you.
It's the Full Metal Racket Show, 91.1 WSBN. Life of Agony.